Family, I feel something stirring in the room tonight. I feel chains shaking. I feel fear trembling. And I feel purpose rising up in someone's spirit. I didn't come here just to speak. I came here to sound the alarm in your soul. Because, baby, it's time to break free from the lies that told you're not enough, free from the shame that tried to bury your name, free from the cycles, the silence, and the self-doubt that's been keeping you stuck in rooms you've outgrown. God didn't bring you this far for you to sit in survival mode. No, sis, no, brother. You were born to soar. And tonight, we're not asking for permission. Tonight, we declare war on everything that ever told us to stay small. Because guess what? It's time to break free. And we're not leaving here the same. Some of us are living under limitations we never chose. We were born into environments, mindsets, and cycles that taught us to shrink ourselves before we even knew who we were. Maybe it wasn't said directly, but it was felt. Felt in the way they spoke over you, or worse. Didn't speak at all. Felt in the way you were taught to settle, to keep the peace, even if it cost you your voice. Felt in the unspoken rules of your household, your culture, or even your church. Don't dream too big. Don't talk too loud. Don't feel too deeply. But here's the truth. Just because it was handed to you doesn't mean you have to hold on to it. The limitations that were passed down to you don't have to live through you. You were created in the image of a limitless God, and he didn't breathe his spirit into you so you could stay bound by fear, by generational pain, or by a narrative that never had your name in it. Breaking free starts with identifying that not every thought, every belief, or every tradition belongs to you. Some of them were inherited. Some of them were survival tactics in someone else's story, insecure, but they're holding you hostage in yours. You've got to begin to examine the roots of what you've accepted as truth. Who told you that you had to do it this way? Who convinced you that success only looked a certain way? That love had to come with conditions. Insecure, that your value depended on how much you produce. Don't make me insecure, because those voices aren't just speaking in your head. They're shaping how you show up in the world. Insecure, they're setting boundaries around a life that was meant to expand. It's time to trace those thoughts back to their origin and ask yourself, was this something God spoke over me? Or something someone broken spoke out of their pain? Because if it didn't come from heaven, it's not your portion. And if it's not your portion, then you don't have to carry it another step. Sometimes the hardest prison to escape is the one you've normalized. God, make me insecure. But let me tell you something. Just because you grew up in it, it doesn't mean you have to die in it. We come from people who did what they could with what they had. And there is honor in that. But there is also a responsibility to break the cycle where it breaks us. You may be the first in your bloodline to see it, to name it, and to resist it. And that's not a curse, that's a calling. That tug you feel in your spirit, the discomfort when you go along with things that no longer feel right. That's the evidence that your soul knows you were made for more. There's a difference between loyalty and bondage. Don't confuse staying in place with staying faithful. God is not asking you to be loyal to your limits. He's asking you to trust him beyond them. He's asking you believe that what's ahead of you doesn't have to look like what's behind you. But to get there, you've got to be willing to let go of what's familiar, even if it's all you've ever known, because freedom doesn't always feel comfortable at first. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like questioning everything you once believed. Sometimes it feels like standing alone. But being alone with God is better than being surrounded in dysfunction. You are not your past. You are God's promise. That may sound simple, but when you've lived a life marked by mistakes, trauma, or constant struggle, it can be hard to believe that God's promise still includes you. Too often we define ourselves by what we've done, what we've been through, or what we lacked growing up. We wear shame like it's part of our skin, not realizing that God has already written a new name over our lives. But the enemy is strategic. He'll use your past as a weapon to keep you from walking into your future. He wants you to believe that because you failed, you are a failure. That because you were rejected, you are unworthy. That because you were broken, you're beyond repair. But God doesn't consult your past to determine your purpose. He knew every chapter before you ever opened the book. Some of us have been dragging around guilt that was never meant to be permanent. We've let one season, one decision, one label define the entirety of who we are. But God sees the whole picture. He sees you not just as who you were, but who you are becoming. He sees the oil on your life, even when all you see is the mess. And he's not intimidated by what you've been through. He intends to redeem it because the promise of God doesn't break under pressure. It doesn't cancel when you make a mistake. His promise is bigger than your past and stronger than your shame. When God calls you, he calls all of you. The good, the bad, the pieces still healing. And he doesn't call you to remind you of what you've done. He calls you to remind you of who you are. The world may know you by your history, but heaven knows you by your identity. You are chosen. You are beloved. You are part of a divine plan that doesn't unravel just because your life did. Some of you are still trying to earn what God has already freely given. Still trying to work your way into a promise that grace already unlocked. You've been performing for acceptance, chasing validation, seeking affirmation, hoping that one day you'll finally feel like enough. But God didn't wait for you to be perfect to pick you. He picked you knowing every flaw, every fall, every failure. That's not rejection. That's restoration. There is power in remembering that your past may explain you, but it does not define you. The enemy would love to keep you so entangled in regret that you miss the redemption unfolding right in front of you. But God's promise isn't just about getting you to heaven. It's about restoring your dignity, your purpose, your joy right here and now. When you wake up and realize that your past is a place of reference, not residence, insecure, that's when you start walking like someone who knows they've been set free. It's not that your past didn't happen. It's that it no longer has authority. You've got to stop rehearsing the pain when God is trying to release the promise. Stop replaying the mistakes when he's trying to renew your mind. You are not stuck. You are not disqualified. You are not too late. The very thing you thought would disqualify you might be the exact place where God wants to use you. That testimony you're afraid to tell, that story you're scared to share, that might be the key to someone else's breakthrough. What the enemy meant to use against you, God intends to use through you. Because when his hand is on your life, even your past has to bow. Healing starts when you stop pretending. So many of us are walking around looking whole, but living wounded, smiling on the outside, bleeding on the inside. We've learned how to perform healing without actually pursuing it. We know how to say the right things, show up to the right places, and play the role like we're okay, when in reality, there's still a part of us that's stuck in survival mode. Pretending becomes a form of protection. If we can convince everyone else that we're fine, maybe we can convince ourselves too. But suppression is not the same thing as healing. Burying the pain doesn't remove its power. It only gives it more room to grow in the dark. Make me insecure. There comes a point where pretending becomes too heavy to carry. The weight of acting like nothing's wrong while everything inside you is unraveling will eventually crush your spirit. And God loves you too much to let you stay hidden behind the mask. He wants your truth, not your performance. Because it's only in truth that healing can take place. You can't heal what you're still trying to hide. You can't be set free from what you refuse to face. And you can't be made whole if you're still pretending you were never broken. Sometimes we're not pretending for others. We're pretending for ourselves. We've convinced ourselves that the trauma wasn't that deep, that the betrayal didn't cut that bad, that we've already moved on. But moving on isn't the same as healing. Healing requires honesty. It requires sitting with the pain long enough to understand it, grieve it, and let God into the places we've kept locked away. That takes courage. It takes strength to be vulnerable, especially when vulnerability has been used against you in the past. But God is not like people. He won't shame you for your truth. He won't reject your pain. In fact, he invites it. He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened." Not come when you have it all together. Not come when you've cleaned yourself up. Come as you are. Come with your broken heart. Come with your unfinished story. Come with your unanswered questions. The truth is, healing is messy. It's not a straight line. It's not always pretty. Some days you'll feel strong, and other days you'll feel like you're back at the beginning. But every tear you cry, every lie you confront, every layer you peel back, that's progress. That's growth. That's healing. And the enemy wants to keep you pretending because he knows the power that comes when you finally get real. He knows that a healed person is a dangerous person. Because when you get healed, you get clear. You start seeing things for what they are. You stop tolerating what used to keep you bound. You stop apologizing for your truth. And you start walking in authority. Healing is not about going back to who you were before the pain. It's about becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more surrendered than you were before. It's about allowing God to rework your identity, not around your wounds, but around his word. But that transformation begins with the decision to stop pretending, to stop hiding behind strength and let God into the weak places. To admit that you're not okay, and that's okay, because when you stop pretending, you make room for God to do what only he can do. You create space for authentic connection, for genuine community, and for real change. You no longer have to exhaust yourself trying to be enough, trying to act unbothered, trying to perform perfection. You can breathe. You can be. You can heal. Till your destiny demands disruption. There are moments in life when staying comfortable becomes more dangerous than taking a risk. We were not created to simply exist in predictable patterns that keep us small. God placed something in you that was never meant to settle. But disruption is uncomfortable. It shakes what you've normalized. It calls into question the systems you've built your identity on, and it invites you to confront the version of you that learned how to survive instead of thrive. Disruption isn't chaos for the sake of noise. It's divine tension pulling you out of alignment with fear and back into alignment with faith. There comes a time when the life you've built no longer fits the calling on your life. You try to squeeze into old routines, into old relationships, into old mindsets, but everything in you knows you've outgrown them. And that's where disruption shows up. Sometimes it looks like doors closing. Sometimes it looks like conflict rising up where there used to be peace. Sometimes it feels like God is stripping things away. But what feels like loss is often the setup for growth. God allows disruption not to harm you, but to awaken you. When destiny is calling, delay becomes disobedience. You can't keep asking for next level blessings while clinging to last season comfort. You can't move into your promised land while still acting like Egypt is your home. And yes, leaving familiar places is scary, but growth is always on the other side of disruption. The call on your life requires a new level of discipline, a deeper level of surrender, and a stronger connection to who God says you are. That means some people won't understand you anymore. That means your environment might not celebrate your shift. But you weren't created to blend in. You were created to break the mold. We often pray for elevation, but elevation always requires separation. separation from distractions, separation from attachments that dilute your purpose, separation from voices that keep you playing small. And it's not personal, it's necessary, because you can't build destiny while babysitting dysfunction. You can't hear God clearly when your life is filled with noise. That's why disruption often feels like isolation. It's God pulling you away from what's familiar so he can pour something new into you without interference. Disruption exposes what you've been tolerating. It puts pressure on the parts of your life that need to shift. It won't let you keep pretending that average is enough. And it's not always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet restlessness, a knowing that where you are is no longer where you're meant to be, and you can't ignore it anymore. Destiny won't let you rest in places you've outgrown. The longer you stay stuck, the louder the disruption becomes. God disrupts what you've built to reveal what he's birthed. That dream, that idea, that purpose, it's trying to come forth, but it needs room to grow. And sometimes the only way to make room is to let things fall apart so you can be rebuilt. There is power in your no more. Saying no more is one of the most courageous acts you can do for your soul. It's a declaration that you are done settling for less than you deserve. It's a refusal to stay trapped in patterns that drain you, in relationships that diminish you, and in mindsets that limit you. Sometimes the hardest battles we face aren't the ones happening around us, but the ones raging inside us. The battle between comfort and growth, between fear and faith, between staying small and stepping into the fullness of who God created us to be. When you say no more, you are choosing faith over fear, freedom over bondage, and purpose over pain. No more is a boundary. It's drawing a line in the sand and telling the world, and more importantly, yourself, that you will no longer tolerate what harms you. It can be no more to toxic relationships that keep you stuck in cycles of hurt and disappointment. It can be no more to negative self-talk that steals your confidence and
Thanks for watching. Stay inspired, stay strong, and don't forget to subscribe so we can keep growing together. Your journey matters, and I am here to walk it with you, one step, one story at a time.